Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Athletic Business and Musco for today's webinar. Our speakers today are Doug Miller, Chris Haley, and Joe Wietrich. And in this presentation, they'll be talking about planning your lighting project. Doug, Chris, and Joe will get into considerations for lighting upgrades, sustainable lighting, and how lighting can impact the fan experience. Our audience is welcome to ask questions, so please put those in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will address those at the end. With that, take it away, gentlemen.
Audrey, thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody joining today, taking time out of their busy schedules to talk lighting with us. I'm joined alongside Doug Miller, Executive Director of USA Sales, and Joe Wietrich, a representative from Musco Entertainment. We are very excited to go through today lighting projects made simple. So we very much understand that these projects can be a bear. They can be cumbersome. They are large infrastructure projects, whether you're in the planning phase, design stage, procurement, installation, operation, even maintenance after the fact. But if we put the right team together and we get the right system behind that team, anything is possible, and these projects can be made simplistically. Here's what we're looking for. Here's the end result of what a simple lighting project can do. We've got even playing, even consistent light throughout the playing field. We've got some color for enhanced entertainment, and we've got no spill light coming off site. But the real question is, how do we get here? So I'm going to turn it over to Doug Miller to talk a little bit more about how do we get here and how do we get the results we want.
Thank you, Chris. You're right. Where do I start? How do I get the results I want? Considering a lighting project, all new or even a retrofit can be overwhelming. But with nearly 50 years of experience, we're going to share some of those best practices for planning your project. Step one, really evaluating and understanding your facilities, understanding what your unique needs are and considerations. As we look at some of the 9 important sports lighting decisions, we have it broken down into those 9 areas, those 9 boxes as we refer to it. We have on the left side, as you see, the design, the supply and install, and at the top we have light, structural, and electrical. So let's break these down a little bit. When we look at the design of light, we look at what are the specifications, what are we looking to do there, and who will be responsible for doing the lighting design. That is often a piece of what Musco can offer, helping from that design considerations, and we'll get into some of those details here in a little bit. But we also look at the design of structural. Is there a geotech report, a soil report, what's underground, to help us build a strong foundation for a lighting system. And then we need to determine, okay, who's responsible for putting a structural foundation design together? How do we know what's going in the ground can be certified and designed appropriately? And then from a design standpoint, what about electrical? What are the specifications from an electrical standpoint? What are the needs? What are the requirements? What are the loads? And oftentimes as well on lighting projects, who is responsible for designing that electrical? So from a design standpoint, those are 3 important lighting decisions in and around light, structural, and electrical. When we start to look at the supply side, okay, who is going to supply the needed lighting components, the poles, the foundations, the lighting fixtures themselves, the drivers that operate those fixtures, and then the wire harnesses to make sure that power is taken through from or within the lighting system itself. So who's supplying that piece? We get into the structural side. You have your needs of equipment. You have your auger, your concrete and rebar. Who is going to be supplying the structural needs for your lighting project? And then the same thing with electrical. What materials are needed, whether it's the wire, the conduit, distribution panel, controls aspects, who is supplying that piece of it. So again, it's identifying who's going to be responsible in those areas. And then we get to the installation. Once we have the design, we have the supply ready, who's going to be installing it? So who will be doing the installation of the lighting? What equipment is required for that installation of the lighting system? Same thing with structural. Who's going to be putting the foundations in? Who's going to be putting the poles in the air? As I mentioned earlier, what equipment is needed? Size of equipment. What are the weights of the equipment that's getting installed? And same thing with electrical. Who will be doing the installation? Is it a certified licensed electrician, electrical contractor? What requirements, equipment is required for that side of it as well to put together a complete and operating lighting system as a whole. So again, different folks can play different roles within these 9 important sports lighting decisions. But anytime you have a lighting project, it's important to really set up who's going to be responsible in those areas so that we could collectively move the project forward. And it holds true, whether, those 9 important questions hold true from your hometown fields that you see on the left, it's a Little League field in Virginia, to Dodger Stadium out in LA. These questions are the same and help guide that project forward because every project is customized for the customer's unique situation. So we have to look at these projects, uniquely in that case-by-case basis. As we look at annual system operation and maintenance checklists, having someone qualified, have a qualified partner, a good partner that can make this process very simple, but yet it is extremely critical in that annual system process, review process, that you have some sort of checklist that you're looking at. As you can see on here, having a qualified professional perform an annual lighting system checkup. You never know when you're dealing with electronics, you're dealing with electrical. We want to make sure that we're meeting the recommended standards for lighting, electrical and structural. Again, getting back to our 9 important questions. We want to verify and continue to verify into the future that those standards are being met and something hasn't changed. When you have lighting equipment in the environment, there's always risk of weather or things that could impact it. And you want to make sure that you're checking that on a regular basis. You want to ensure the safety of players and spectators as we complete this analysis, because that is the number 1 priority. Is we got to make sure that we've got a safe and operable system out there protecting those players and protecting those spectators. So how many lights do I need? Is often a very initial question. Well, a lot of it is based upon who's playing on those facilities. As you see baseball, softball, you got double as the level increases, the speed of play increases. So it's important also that you look at seating capacity. There's different requirements based upon, again, the type of facility that we're looking at. Handles or lux, term measurement of light here in the U.S. Lux is more of your international measurement, and it will dictate and direct you to what the recommended light levels are. These light levels, as we're looking at, are based on the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America recommended practices. They lay out and provide what those light level recommendations should be for those different levels of play, taking into account seating capacity. So you can see on here the different levels based upon, again, the different sport and the different requirements. Again, the higher level of play, the higher level of foot candles that be needed and required. The other piece to this too is the uniformity of light. What your maximum light level is divided by your minimum light level, because you want a smooth, even lighting across the surface, which this presents a very good example of a previous LED system that was on a larger stadium down in La Jolla, Texas, where you can see the photo on the right. Not only were light levels of concern, but your uniformity of light. You can see several hot spots, whether it be on the track or on the field. There was uneven lighting, even in the bleachers. And you can see when it's done correctly, when the light levels are confirmed, it's designed appropriately, you can see what it should look like on the field. Even when you look at the baseball, softball fields in the background, the photo on the left, you can see a lot of glare light coming from those from those poles and fixtures. And the picture on the right, with a controlled optic, you don't see that as much. And again, we'll touch on that here in a little bit. Key considerations, say, is the energy efficiency is another consideration. LED, you're drawing a lot less power to operate those lights, but it's also the efficiency of the lighting fixture itself. Sky protection, you can see in the photo is right up along along some water there down in New Orleans, and you're not getting a lot of light spilling off the top fixtures itself. Appropriate pole placement, appropriate aiming of the lighting onto the field also plays into your relation. If you light the surface or the facility or field that you're lighting, you want to keep it out of your neighbors' houses, whether that's truly houses that are close by, if there is roadways, anything where it could be impactful. We want to keep the lighting where we want the light. Cost of ownership, what's it going to cost me to operate these lights? What's my warranty? What are some of those costs in and around that to operate those into the future? Upgrading your lights, it's important that not all LEDs are created equal. Still relatively new technology. There's a lot of options, but it's important to know that not all are created equal. And I want to take you through the evolution of sports lighting. 1977, we were using a light source, a metal halide light source, and a symmetrical round reflector to go around that light source to try and project light down onto the field where we want it to go. You can see in 1977, there's a lot of glare or candela, as we have it labeled here, which is your intensity of light. It takes into account, a single fixture candela levels, but in this demonstration, we are looking at what that candela is from a single fixture coming out or off of each of these poles. You can see in 1977, there's a lot of glare. At 100 feet, we're at 102,000 candela. Made some modifications, angled the the arc tube a little different in our 1500-watt lamp that we used to use, made some optical adjustments to project better efficiency and additional or more lumens down onto the field. So you can see there was a little less glare in the three fixtures in 1989, a few different visor options. You can see the candela levels are starting to drop, which is good. More light getting down into the field, less light getting outside of your facility. In 2005, a green generation fixture was developed where we cut that candela down even further. As you can see, a little bit longer visor, a little bit different housing, a little bit different setup from that fixture in 2005. And then came LED, specifically TLC for LED in what Musco rolled out, to where we have completely lowered our candela down to 7 candela. To give you a little bit of an idea of candela levels, your high beam car headlights are somewhere in the 45 to 50,000 candela. Low beam headlights is down around 10,000 to 12,000 candela, just to give you a good idea of the level of intensity. Other LED systems that are out there have a very high amount of candela, and you can see it reverts back higher than what we were doing in the late 70s. Why I bring this up is you lose some of the efficiency of placing light down in the field, but what really neighbors and spectators and players get concerned about is that high level of glare from a non-controlled light source. If you're not controlling the LED light source, it can be very harsh. Thus, what you're looking at here and why it's important to have a controlled light source as we move into today's world with LED. Again, another example of what can happen when we say not all LED is created equal. You can see on the left, if the aiming is not done correctly, if the light output and where that light is going, if it's not the right amount of foot candles, you can see on the left, that is what can happen. You have an uneven plane surface, which can create some major challenges. Same here, looking from a above the pole standpoint, you can definitely see where some of those hot spots and dark spots are on your field. That'll impact playability. If you're a passing team, it'll impact your receivers catching the ball, or maybe even your punt returners catching the ball. When light moves through hot spots, the dark spots very quickly, it's much more difficult for the human eye to keep up with it. You can see on the right, after we went in with a great lighting design, added our TLC or changed out the previous product with our TLC for LED, you can see a nice and smooth plane surface along with great cutoff coming out of our light fixtures on the poles. What values matter with LED is the next question. Light levels. Light levels is a big one. You're going to hear the term oftentimes, especially in retrofit applications, one-to-one changeouts. Just like in your classrooms, your parking lots, your gymnasiums, oftentimes you take an older previous technology fixture down, put a new LED fixture up, and looks good, right? It's much different when it comes to sports lighting. If I go back to what I covered earlier about appropriate light levels, appropriate uniformities, it's critical that anytime you upgrade on sports fields, that you may not get to the appropriate light levels with a one-to-one changeout. You have got to complete a lighting design to ensure light levels are being met and guaranteed. Same thing with spill and glare. Spill and glare is another key value to what we do. It's that optical control of that fixture, placing the light where we want it decrease or eliminate as much of the glare as possible or spill over into a neighboring property, and keep that as minimal as possible. Energy efficiency, one I mentioned earlier, it's important. We have energy efficient products that we're putting up in terms of LED. Return on investment. What is my return on investment? If you have an existing system, it's costing you money to maintain, it may be time to look at an LED retrofit that we can assist on. Warranty is another big one. I'll get into more of those details, but there's a lot of different warranties out there. Understanding what warranty is being provided to you, reading the fine print on that is also key. And again, we'll get into some more of that here in a little bit. And then you have your add-on entertainment features that Joe will touch on here a little later. All key matters with LED lighting. Again, as we take all those into account, when you miss on some of those, oftentimes what happens is what we're looking at on the left picture. When it's done correctly, you can see the photo on the right. Again, another example of what we're talking about. This one is important. You heard me mention earlier about these baseball, softball fields. One thing that's important too, when you have fields that are adjacent to one another, like the photos that we're looking at, is the field-to-field glare. Field-to-field glare, what that means is if you're playing on one field and you look over and you're getting hit with uncontrolled light sources from the adjacent field, it creates a playability issue. When it's done correctly, you're going to see that, some darkness, and when it's shielded appropriately, you're not going to have that impact. But you need to have that designed appropriately during the design phase of things so that you don't have that impact. And those are all things that can be predetermined exactly what that impact is going to be. And we want to design that correctly from the beginning versus having to do it after the fact, because there's real challenges that come with that. Next question, what details matter? Details that matter as we get into the structure side of what does pole type, why does pole type matter? And you have a variety of different pole types that we're looking at here, from what used to be used years ago and what was readily available and cost effective was wood. A lot of drawbacks with wood, a lot of twisting and turning, rotting from the inside out. We have moved away over the years from wood into utilizing a steel pole structure. But with a steel pole structure, you have to have a great foundation. And you have to have a foundation that's not going to be susceptible to corrosion or environmental impacts when you get a steel pole down around ground level or right at grade. You want to keep that steel pole up out of that corrosion and moisture zone. And it's important that we're putting concrete in the ground. You want to put concrete in the ground because there's not a corrosion process that takes place, but yet have the effectiveness and the benefits from using a steel pole, but making sure it's designed appropriately from a foundation, making sure that you have the steel pole, the loading, the wind loading that's going on those steel poles, making sure if we got to do that when it's all brand new, but we also got to do it when we're retrofitting lighting fixtures on a pole, an existing pole. What are the existing loads? Again, a lot to sort out, when we're looking at pole types and what we can put on different pole types, but you got to have a great foundation and you got to have a great structure built for the long term. We want to talk about long-term solutions here, not making short-term solution or decisions that will end up costing you or making you purchase multiple lighting systems in a short period of time. The other thing I will mention about poles, Anytime you have movable components on poles, they are going to need, they're going to need annual maintenance of some sort. When you have fixed structures, you're not going to have to worry about that. The pole, the foundation pole type to the far right, concrete base and galvanized steel pole, you're not going to have to worry about those movable parts into the future because you got a great fixed structure that will be built for the long term. And that's something you got to make sure that you're evaluating in the process. The other part is system versus parts. Making sure you have a sports lighting system as a complete system. Foundation the pole top, from a single manufacturer, and making sure that, again, it's engineered and complete as a system versus parts and pieces. You don't know, some of the drawbacks until you start trying to piece that all together, where you get a third-party pole, another third-party cross arm to mount the light fixtures on. Making sure you don't have exposed wiring. You have exposed wiring in the environment, you're going to have impact on that, negative impact, because the weather, depending on where you're located, could be impactful to any external wiring. So if you have a complete system, as you see here, we have a engineered 5 easy piece system for optimal light control, easy installation, and trouble-free operation. Again, I repeat, engineered as a complete system, factory aimed. We got electrical components enclosures that really house the electronics that go on our poles now, and built-in lightning and surge protection. Again, built as a system, as a safe system and long-term system as well. A lifetime light source needs a lifetime of service. Okay, what does that mean? LED, the light source, can last a long, long time. How do we make sure that we service that? What questions do you need to ask? When considering the warranty, it's important to know, are all parts and labor covered for the entire system? Got to read the fine print. Fine print may tell you otherwise, but you want to make sure that you have a lighting system that is covered parts and labor. It is at times often difficult to find an electrical contractor to come service your product. A lot of changes in the LED world, specifically with drivers, what that impact is. Why not have a warranty that will cover you for the next 25 years? Parts and labor. Is there a performance guarantee to it? We talked about light levels, both on field and off field, keeping those to a minimum. Are we meeting those uniformities, the smoothness of your field? Having a performance guarantee will allow you to be rest assured that you will be taken care of for the duration of that warranty period. Does it cover maintenance? You should have no responsibility outside of maybe checking to see if a fuse is blown. The rest of it should be covered. There should be no annual maintenance on your side, the owner's side. That should be the responsibility of that manufacturer lighting company. So does it cover maintenance, removal, shipping, and installation costs for repairs? That should all be included in that warranty. Cranes or lifts, we got to make sure we have access to get out there, but everything else should be covered in that warranty period. So we look at, okay, we have our lighting system up in here. How do we control it? What steps do we need to take there? Providing and getting a control system is key to making it very efficient in terms of operation. With our Musco controlling system, you're able to turn lights on and off from anywhere. Smartphone, laptop compatibility. Having the ability at your fingertip to schedule an easy to use scheduling feature where it puts you in control of your schedule. And that is key because you can set it when you want those lights to turn on, whether it's, right around dusk or right before dusk, when your shut-off periods are. That way you're not driving around the different facilities, shutting them off or handing out a bunch of keys to turn the lights on and off. This is an easy way to set your schedule and allow the system to turn your lights on and off for you. The great news too is it comes with a proactive system monitoring. So we're able to provide you with a proactive approach in monitoring the system. I always tell the story about football season. You turn on the lights the Friday before the big game coming up, and you have a whole bunch of lights out. With this proactive system monitoring, we are able to proactively monitor that system if there's any issues, if there's a fixture out, if there's a driver issue. We're able to be proactive so that we can send our Musco team members out there, our technicians, to fix any problem before it becomes an issue potentially for you, the user. The other great part about this is it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, service and support. You have the ability from your phone at your fingertips, but you also have the ability to have it backed up by live operators, where if you need to call in, we have a team of folks that will answer your calls and help you troubleshoot if there's any sort of issue. They will help you with scheduling, but they are there and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So again, making sure that you have a great control system, you have a great warranty that all is encompassing from a single manufacturer to ensure that you are supported for the duration of that warranty, and all of that is included with our lighting systems that we provide. So at this time, I will shift it over to Joe for Joe to take on maximizing your facility's potential.
All right, thanks, Doug. Go ahead and get started to the next one here, Chris. Yeah, among the many benefits of LED that Doug just mentioned, the entertainment and fan experience is one aspect that really shines with the Musco systems. The Musco Entertainment Division helps facilitate and improve the overall atmosphere for fans, alumni, students, and players alike by providing what used to generally be exclusive for major venues, but is now available for all Musco LED systems. And that is all now done by the simple push of a button on the Musco touchscreen. The Musco Entertainment team has the ability to act as a lighting designer by creating custom light shows synced with audio. And here's an example at Wake Forest. And the process of how all that flows is the customer has an audio file that they would like to have synced with the Musco lights, and from there they send an MP3 file to our team, and our talented team of lighting programmers create these awesome dynamic shows for the facilities. Here is Wynn High School, in Wynn, Arkansas, and it's an excellent example of demonstrating how the easy-to-use Musco control system has provided them with more opportunities to utilize the facility to its full capabilities. And here's a quote from the athletic director at Wynn High School. The lighting is so cost-effective and easy to control that it's opened up a lot of avenues for us. We can host camps at the stadium, or we can do movie nights at the stadium as a fundraiser. When you think about all the groups that can benefit from the lights, it's great to share the wealth. And that's a really awesome example of being able to utilize the system in multiple ways. If there is a fundraiser that's taking place at the facility, like this football stadium, for example, and the main event is taking place at the center of the field. Our programmers have the ability to take the fixtures that are aimed at that location on the field and turn those on while blacking out the rest of the facility, creating a really intimate moment for the event. Another example of this would be if a local organization would like to rent out the facility and utilize it for their own needs. If the facility is equipped with the Musco RGBW fixtures, we can create custom shows and effects for them and really utilize the RGBWs to showcase the company's colors, for example. Right before the start of the season, this year, the University of Wisconsin upgraded their lighting system at Camp Randall Stadium to LED, and also the addition of the RGBW fixtures. And for those that have been fortunate enough to experience Camp Randall, know that it's a pretty special environment in college football. And now with the addition of the LED system, we're able to incorporate the new lighting system for their key moments, specifically the famous jump around moment that kicks off the start of the fourth quarter, where we're now able to sync with that song and utilize the field of play lights and those RGBW fixtures as well. So I'll start this one by reading the quote here by Paris Buchanan, the Senior Associate AD for Fan Experience at Auburn. In 2025, the game itself is no longer enough. It has to be a full-on immersive experience. A season ticket holder sent me this message. First Auburn game ever for my wife. I had no idea football can be such an experience. She went from, I don't think I'll enjoy it, to let's plan on how we can get more experiences. There's no doubt that live games and experiences have challenges in 2025. It's obviously very easy for people to stay home, watch these events on their couch, on TV, and also sit on their phones even while in the stadium. So being able to utilize these effects and light shows to keep fans engaged is a really awesome tool to have in the back pocket. Yeah, yep. So, and here is University of Central Oklahoma. This is a great visual demonstration for color capabilities with the Musco RGBW fixtures. And with the addition of colored fixtures, this can really take facilities to the next level. And there are a few different ways that we can go about utilizing the RGBW fixtures. The first would be doing a general flood lighting like you're seeing here, where we're flooding the stands and the field of play. The next solution we look at would be lighting just the stands, which brings a really cool element to the game. We're able to light the field with the normal game lights. The game can continue, but just the stands could be blue, for example, or we could even run various effects in the stands while the game's going on. And the third would be, having both of those solutions in one. And that's the beauty of Musco and how we're able to build custom-built lighting solutions for you and your needs. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on. And here's a quote from Stan from the University of Central Oklahoma. Musco's chill light capabilities will allow us to do something special with the lights during those big moments, and I think create some fun memories for our student athletes and fans. Why not get the top of the line lights that can put on a show and add to that atmosphere? And here is Principality Stadium in Cardiff, Wales. This is the stadium, one of the stadiums that has all the bells and whistles when it comes to Musco equipment. You obviously have the field of play lighting, but the RGBW fixtures, as well as third-party integrations with moving heads. So you may be thinking, that's great that we have these examples at these major venues, but what does that mean for my facility? Maybe I have just a local high school. The beauty of these systems is they're extremely easy to use And we're now able to provide this level of service to all Musco LED systems. So if this is something that is of interest, it's something that can be done across the board.
Joe, really appreciate that. So now we're going to get to responsible lighting practices here at the end of our presentation. And really, for us, outdoor sports lighting and protecting the night sky uh, have been in mix for years, and we've continued to get closer to being able to protect that night sky. But now we're at a point where LEDs are so pinpoint and the Musco system is optically tight that we are able to do projects like this one here at Queencliff out in Australia. We're able to put lights right up next to the ocean, right up next to the sensitive environments to protect the night sky, to protect the environment, but also have the safe play. Doug mentioned it earlier, but one of the things that we talk about heavily here is the reason why we light things at night is to replicate daytime conditions for safe play. And so if there's one thing you guys walk away from this presentation, knowing that we can do all of those things while um, being responsible neighbors and being responsible to the environment. Really cool example here from St. Anne's in Nova Scotia. This is a dark sky outdoor sports lighting facility, approved facility. It reduces nuisance lighting for the neighbors. It protects the night sky by eliminating or getting to that threshold of uplight that's allowed through that program. It supports the wildlife, improves the quality of play like we've talked about, and ultimately we're saving time, saving money, and saving resources. Um, One of the things that is a common misconception is that there are light fixtures out there that are dark sky approved for sports lighting. And one of the things that we are continuing to talk to people about is when it comes to the outdoor sports lighting program and the dark sky approved fixtures, that is through its own program and it's based on the design and based on the in-field certifications that go on. Here's a great one of Champaign, Illinois. This is a dark sky proof project that we did that's right here in the middle of the neighborhood. Pickleball facility, tight spill and glare control, but we're still maintaining the right amount of lumens on the playing surface. And the same thing here at Frank Brown. It's a major complex, but we're still able to maintain that dark sky certification. And Doug spoke to it a little bit earlier, but the field to field glare and the field to field comparison there is minimized. So that way we can have players playing on the field, not impacted by the surrounding fields that are lit up next to them. So I want to say thank you guys so much for taking time today and joining us for our presentation. I want to turn it over to you guys for a little Q&A. If you guys want to put questions in the chat, would love to hear any questions that you guys have. Audrey, any other things there?
Absolutely. Kick it off with some questions. What is the biggest misconception you run into from customers, especially when they're looking to replace their existing LEDs?
I guess, well, one of the things I just talked about was that misconception with the dark sky piece. Dark Sky International has the outdoor sports lighting program, and that is based upon the design. It is not based on the individual fixture itself. Doug, any other things you want to add there?
Yeah, I would also add, when you're looking at replacing LED or going to LED on a field or a facility, that you're really looking at that lighting design and light levels. There's oftentimes that misconception I talked about earlier about, a one-to-one change out, or I'm going to be saving all this energy, but in reality, you start cutting your light levels on the field or that playing surface down, then it becomes a safety challenge or a safety issue, I should say. So that is sometimes a misconception about all this energy savings. It is a good thing, but you got to make sure in the sports world on these facilities, you have enough light, and that's where the light levels come into play.
Awesome. One other question from the chat. We've got folks wondering if they have a project out to bid, how should they make sure that all of the proposals they're getting in are apples to apples in terms of pricing and warranty and performance and all of those considerations?
It really, it starts by setting the standards. What are the standards? That is something that we at Musco, we work with owners and consultants every day to help develop and determine what those standards are. As I mentioned earlier, the light levels of play, all of that can play a part in that, and should play a part in it. But also, the lighting design itself, pole locations, warranties, and right down the list. Setting that standard is really what needs to be done, and that's oftentimes captured in a specification.
Great. Another question from the chat. Did the ball tracker lights comply with FAA rules for airport proximity?
So oftentimes the process with ball trackers, and we have a number of projects in and around airports that utilize our ball tracking technology. And sometimes there's an approval process that we want to go through with the FAA. And really it's flight patterns, landing patterns in and around those airports. But it's such a controlled light source that's going into the sky. Oftentimes it's much less obtrusive versus a non-controlled optical approach with a lighting fixture at the top of the pole that throws a lot of light in the horizon slightly above the horizon, versus a ball tracker is more of a controlled focus source. So in our experience working with the FAA and airport officials, that ball tracker is actually a better solution as we get close to proximity of airports.
Thank you. One more here in the chat. Have there been any major advancements in technology in recent decades that would outdate past lighting structures, or that would mean a big jump in quality for lighting technology modernized from a certain year or timing window?
It's a good question. I would say, there's been a lot of, while LED is still somewhat new in the sports world, really in the last 10 to 12 years, we are looking at a lot of those light source projects or HID projects that are getting closer to end of life, retrofitting those to LED. But the advancements really are, LED has advanced a lot since we started working in that area. We continue to increase the amount of lumens coming out, the lumens per watt in those fixtures, the controllability and efficiency of getting light down onto the field, using less fixtures to light fields. Those are all things that we continue to evolve technology-wise. But that time frame, I would say anything with an HID light source prior to, when 10 years ago would probably be, something as we look at. However, some of those still have longer term warranties on them. So all of those guarantees are there. So that's why we look at it case by case, project by project. What is the right solution? But the technology itself is continuing to advance.
And let's see. Knowing that we all want the best outcome that we can achieve within our budget, what is y'all's best guidance or tips for customers who do have those budget constraints?
Chris, you want to touch on that one?
Sure. I think part of it is just having the conversation. I think there's a lot of times where we get into projects and, we're walking in with A+ design and that's exactly what is being asked for, but there's major budget constraints. And so I think part of that is just having open dialogue throughout the process. We talk about being there from planning all the way through the installation and the ownership and the operation stages of a project, making sure that we're having all those communications up front, and then we can provide those designs accordingly.
Great. Thank you, guys. It looks like that is all the questions that we have. Audience members, you will be receiving a follow-up email with documents and links for the webinar recording. And if you have any questions for the team at Musco or want follow-up information, you will be able to find that information in that email. So thank you, Doug, Chris, and Joe, for your presentation today. And thank you to all of Musco for sponsoring today's webinar.
Thank y'all very much.